Picking up January 2023, I'm walking through this journey of obedience while also trying to fight for my kids and stand in a position in a gap to protect them, both physically and spiritually. So my daughter, she's in treatment. We're inpatient for treatment, getting ready to receive her bone marrow transplant on January 4th. Still got my son. He's being moved around when it comes to the schools. Every time I get to a school, their mother moves them. I'm dealing with that. And then I'm also dealing with the lack of income now that the contract that I was previously on had expired and the second one has not started at this point yet. It's like, okay, we're supposed to be going into another contract for, I think it was property and casualty insurance with another company, but that is not moving as fast as we thought it was going to. Some type of contract dispute is going on with the company. Nonetheless, I'm doing my best to take care of my family the way that I know best at the time. For the most part, I'm living in St. Pete in the sense that I've got a home or an apartment rather in Lakeland, but my daughter's being treated there. So I'm constantly there. And at some point, someone from the Ronald McDonald House was like, I went there to wash some laundry or take a snack, something like that. And this voice says, Mr. Tynes, would you like to stay at the Ronald McDonald House? It's like, first of all, how do you know my name? Second of all, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, what that entails. I've got all these concerns and these worries. And this is me, like I'm in a different place now, but I'm going to talk to you like I was then with a little bit of knowledge of present. There are all these things that were on my mind that I thought I could control and should control and mitigate, but really learning that some of the best employees or people that are great at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they have a plan for everything have just been really hurt in the past. And they want to make sure that doesn't happen again. One of them. So I'm going through all this checklist and eventually I'm like, whoa, what if I move everything here and I start staying at the Ronald McDonald House? And then what if my daughter doesn't make it? You know, what's going to happen to me? How soon do I have to get out? And the lady reassured me. She was like, well, first of all, that's not going to happen. Second of all, if it were to happen, we'd be very understanding and we wouldn't just rush you out immediately. It's like, okay. So I'm looking at still paying rent in Lakeland and then also trying to be bedside with my daughter. I start noticing their mother bringing in paramours, Paramours. That's when you're still married and you're engaging in romantic or erotic. I say erotic because I think of love as agape, phileo, eros, and storge. But you're engaging in a relationship with other men and you're bringing them into the child's room, one of them calling them uncle, just because that's her sister's husband. And they go, oh, well, he is an uncle. When you understand and have seen, this is me speaking, in the past, that her sister, technically in law for me, was into something called open marriage, which is a whole bunch of crap. Like no such thing. You're either monogamous or you're not. But when you start dabbling into those witchcrafts and all these other occult practices, that community does a whole lot of, well, marriage is just a title and they swap this, that, another. Nonetheless, I'm noticing more of this person in my daughter's room. Like, why are you even here? Why does the mom pretend to be here or say she's going to be here and then she's actually not? And I can check in and see what's actually going on because at this point we've got to switch out. I'm trying to once again be the peacekeeper. Hey, you be here with our daughter Aviana. I'll come when you're not and we can work together. I've learned in hindsight this person doesn't want to work together, primarily because there's a stronghold on that mind that seeks to steal, kill, and destroy. That's just what it is. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, rulers of darkness in high places. That's really what it is. But during this time and during this season, I'm watching my daughter go through turmoil. When I'm there, she'll eat, she'll drink. Well, when her throat was able to eat, but she'll be responsive. But when I'm not there, I'm getting reports from the nurses and seeing it in the documented file. Hey, she's not eating, she's not drinking, she's not communicative, she's fighting with her mom. There's all of this tension and conflict and chaos while trying to go through treatment for leukemia. And there was a portion of time when I'm just trying to talk to her mom and be logical and not understanding why she would put our kids in the way of collateral damage. Just not understanding. I understand now. Nonetheless, we're in there. There's a whole bunch of foolishness from her grandparents, the maternal grandparents, to the uncle, to all of this other stuff. I've had to call security a couple of times to de-escalate and just get her mom out of there when she wasn't respecting the boundaries, physical as well as verbal boundaries. I'm in there. I'm trying to continue to work. Work says, hey, you're going to have to make a choice. We're starting back up. Either you pick your daughter or your work. And I'm like, well, then you're an idiot if you think that is actually even a choice. You never had a choice. So I'm bedside with my daughter, not only because I am advocating for her, not only because I'm the one that stands in the gap when the doctors and the medical team goes, oh yeah, everything's going to be fine. And they look at her as an average, but I'm looking at her as a parent and an individual, noticing patterns and trends. Not to mention my father, he's also got over 20 years internal medicine pediatrics. I can talk to him. New school doctors versus old school doctors, they were trained completely differently. One is going to do a whole lot more tests, hope for the best, and look at your patient as an average. That's just what I've seen. And it's partially not their fault. They've been trained to do it that way. And as I'm in bedside with my daughter, she has to get an NG tube, which means nose to gastric NG tube, just so that she can eat, because mucositis, which is the lining on the insides of her body, just starts to deteriorate, gets really bad. But one of the blessings of the radiation and the chemo journey were the nurses. And one nurse pulls me aside one day, not secretively, just like, hey, I want you to know it's going to get worse before it gets better. Like, I like that type of stuff, because it's like, just tell me straight. Let's stop pretending everything's going to turn out well, because it doesn't for many kids, especially with leukemia. Hey, it's going to get worse before it gets better. You're going to see her vomit blood. You're going to see this. You're going to see that. You're going to see this. You might need some type of underwear, or I don't want to call it diaper, but basically she might need a diaper. She might need this and that, but you're going to see this. And it prepared me, and God gave me a vision at that time of this ship riding this very high wave that was clear skies, wonderful, and then going down into this valley where a storm was. It's like, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but after that, it's going to be okay for the most part. So I'm trying to navigate personal life, work, my son, really not taking care of myself like I should have, and then taking care of my daughter, and also dealing with their mom and everything else that comes. Some people, they don't feel unless there's tension, there's conflict, there's some type of hostility. And I'm not fighting with this person. I think that's some of the humor and the irony in how God allowed us to be placed together, in the sense that someone wants all of this conflict and all of this stuff that they're used to growing up with, because that's what they saw in their home, very toxic, unhealthy relationships. And then you got the person that just, hey, nope, I'm going to de-escalate. Even if I have to shut my mouth and walk away, that's what I'm going to do. But it created this cycle of, why won't you engage? I can't feel anything. And I'm like, I'm just going to walk away. Not because that was the best thing to do, but because that was also my default. You know, we had two different ways of approaching it. But I'm seeing I don't want to say progression, but the regression, that's the best word, regression of my daughter, and how she's acting, and how she's nonverbal, and just going into a dark place, mainly because of the people around her. When I'm there, once again, everything gets better. When I'm not there, she regresses. But when I do show up, well, this is the blessing of her being in the hospital, no one could prevent me from seeing her. Their mother, iPad, whatever, even though there was interference with the iPad, and had her paramours turning off the iPad and blocking it and putting it out of the reach of the child. Just like, what the heck is wrong with you adults? Even if it is spiritual, which it is, you still have some free will. And there's something seriously wrong with the individual like that. So I'll show up if I'm in the area, especially because I was staying at the Ronald McDonald House, it made it easy to take care of my daughter. Show up, hey, how you doing? What's going on? The windows would be blacked out as far as the blinds closed. Even the one on the door that allowed the nurses to look in closed. It would be the darkest room possible. And you got these number spells on the wall or the window, and these I am statements that are really from the New Age movement, which is not New Age, it's old age. It's creating, what do you call it? Making yourself as if you're God. I am this and I am that. I am my own God. You ain't nothing. There's one God, and one enters, what do you got? One God and one man that makes the way between us and God, and that's Christ Jesus, and then we got the Holy Spirit. And as I'm seeing my daughter regress, I'm getting concerned, and I'm trying to fight harder, praying and just being there and any and everything I can do, even though I just had not the stem cell, but the bone marrow harvest done maybe a month ago. There's still pain in my back, but I'm still working. I'm still trying to do things that really are out of my control. And a couple of the nurses had mentioned that you got to take care of yourself. It's like, yeah, you got to put your own mask on first. And that became a light bulb moment for where I am today. A lot of us fathers, we not only innately have this sacrificial gene in us, but we're also taught to be that way. You know, you lay down your life for your family. And I'm not trying to make this women versus men, like cut that crap out. Because I can hear someone now saying, oh, mothers will. We both are designed by God to take care of our children. But I'm not talking about women right now. This is about men. We can table that. But especially as a man and as a father, you know what you would do. And there's very few things that you would not do to protect your family, children, wife, whatever. And in that process of go, burning the candle at both ends, we forget and neglect how to take care of ourselves so that we can continue to go and not burn out. So my daughter is inpatient. She receives this medication called Ativan. It's recommended. It takes care of anxiety as well as the nausea because the Benadryl is not enough. All the medicines that they're giving her for the nausea and the vomiting is not enough. Well, why is that important? Well, would you want to vomit if the insides of your body were broken down and you're also vomiting blood and it's just painful? She's actually on morphine at this point in time in the story. And there's a desire, it seems like, for her mother to get our daughter out of the hospital quicker so I can't see her. And she's rushing the process. Like, my daughter looks awful at this point. And she doesn't want the NG tube. She doesn't want Ativan. Nope, she's good to go. Let's hurry up and get out of here. One day, because their mom's in there and refuses to let Aviana have Ativan, she vomits out her NG tube. This thing comes out through her mouth, so they have to pull it from her nose. And then her mom says, no, she's fine. She can take the medications by mouth orally. Long story short, medications take 2 hours to 5 hours to administer. And then finally the hospital gets involved because, you know, there's a lot of, unfortunately, we've got bureaucratic people and lawyers involved in business that try to prevent everything from happening that would create a lawsuit. We don't live in that world. You're going to get sued at some point for something. Relax. I'm going to go back to the story. But nonetheless, they finally get involved after I send a message in my chart saying whoever is refusing to put back this NG tube and to give her the medications that she needs, and she's going without water and food at this point, I want you to document those names for me. Meanwhile, on the phone and in rounds, hey, she needs this, she needs this, she needs this. She went 5 days without proper food, water, and medication being administered. Not saying that they were neglecting it, but the hospital was bound by what the mother was doing and saying and interfering with. So once I finally put it in there, there was a movement. Okay, you know what? We're going to put the NG tube back in. It's like, yeah, she can't even get the full dose of the medication. Her throat is still raw. There's just, this child is in pain and in one of the worst positions that you would want a 5-6-year-old to be in. And now you're trying to force her to take medication that tastes disgusting, that is a very, very large volume. One of the things looked like Tide, and everything my daughter went through, I tried to put myself in her shoes. So the medication, I didn't ingest it, but the cap might have a little bit of it. I'm Taste test. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's awful. Don't add the cherry, add the chocolate. That'll pair well with it and kind of cover it up. Do a 3-to-1 ratio. Like all of this stuff, I'm working my butt off trying to make it work. But at some point, my daughter, just after the NG tube is coming back in, I'm like, Lord, I've done all I can do. She was yours before she was mine. I'm gonna need you to do something. Now, since the people at church was like, hey, I had a vision of your daughter and she was grown and you were standing face to face. And I had to hold on to that. I'm like, all right, Lord, whether we see each other again on that side or in this life, I have to trust that you're going to take care of it. But I can't do this. Like I can't be in multiple places at once and take care of her as well. Like this is spiritual, you know it, and you're in control of everything. I'm gonna need you to handle this. So after that prayer, after putting the information in my chart, the request, which was really a demand, NG tube gets back in like a day or two later. I get a call from the nurse manager. Hey, and she conferences both me and her mom. One of you need to get here right now. Aviana's just been diagnosed with COVID. They're also kicking out the uncle from her room because he's symptomatic. He was hiding it. I remember during this time, her mother was sick, trying to hide it. And she's talking in her native language, or technically she's American, but her parents' native language, and saying, telling her dad to bring her a bunch of vitamin C because the brain at this point, or this personality at this point, hates all Western medicine, hates all vaccines, hates all any interventions. So let me just take some herbs and some vitamins. That's all I need. She's hiding it. She's wearing a mask because, it's still COVID protocol. And then the uncle, he's got COVID. He gets kicked out of the hospital. Hallelujah. Can't come back for 2 weeks. 2 weeks minimum. It's beautiful. Because when we're on the phone, their mom's like, well, I can't get there. I'm at work. Gotcha. I'm right across the street. I'll come right over. And now I'm thinking, here's the part I haven't told you yet. I had got recruited by another company when it comes to my profession now with insurance. And they go, you know what? I read your resume and I think you got the aptitude to do this. You just get your life insurance license. You've already got your health. Come on through and let's see how this works for us. So I'm studying at this point for a life insurance exam and dealing with all this foolishness and trying to figure out how am I going to pay rent, draining all my savings to do it. And then my daughter comes down with COVID and I'm thinking, all right, well, here's again that mindset of not taking care of yourself first. I guess I'm just going to cancel my life insurance exam. I couldn't. It was too late. Like I couldn't cancel it. And if I were to miss it, it would just forfeit the money and be a total waste. I don't remember if I paid for it or if they paid for it. But nonetheless, I wasn't going to waste it. It's like, all right, I've scheduled my exam and this is God's hand on the situation before it even got there. I'm looking at where should I schedule my exam, and Holy Spirit says in my mind, you know what? You should go close to the hospital, St. Pete, right there. Cool. Do it super early in the morning. What's the earliest they got? Cool. Right there. My daughter wasn't getting up until like maybe 10 a.m. during this point. Just wasn't feeling well. So we go into lockdown in another wing of the hospital. We can't go in and out frequently, but we can take a break like once or twice a day. Anyway, I get up. I say, you know what? I'm just going to get up early in the morning, pass my exam, come back with my daughter, and be on lockdown for 3 weeks. And praise be to God, that's exactly what happened. I got up, took my exam, passed, came back just as my daughter was getting up, and her nurses were starting to, trying to get her to get up so she could take those medicines, pushing it and just taking vitals. So look at this. Once again, please hear me. Joy in the morning. This is an awful, awful time, especially if you look at it with the natural, but in the spirit, God is like, I got this. I got this. And I would even believe that he's saying, thank you for finally trusting me. I got this. Because the blessing that I received with my prayer being answered was my daughter getting COVID in hospital. So at this point, she's got no immune system. She looks like a cancer patient for the first time. I'm super concerned. That's why I'm writing. It's like, hey, I've seen people that have died from cancer. And she looks like it right now. Super concerned. No immune system. Looks awful. No food, drink, water. It's a really bad situation. And then she gets on lockdown. And for 3 weeks with me, and this doesn't mean that mom wasn't coming, but mom wasn't staying in there like me. In and out, in and out. Maybe that's due to work. Maybe that's due to whatever else. But even when she was there, she'd sit back like it's a hotel and let all the PCTs, the techs, bathe and take care of our daughter. I'm like, and when I get there, I'm like, this is my kid. Like you're here for a very specific task. You go take care of the bed, wipe that down. But I'm here. I'm gonna take care of my daughter. I love my daughter. So I'm taking care of her. That's what I do. I trust the nurses too. They can do it when I can or I need a break. But that was very, 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 very seldom. Most of the time it was, we got this, Dad. Take a break. And I loved them for that, honestly. But when it comes to my daughter being in the room, locked down with me, mother comes in and out here and there, maybe once a day to say hi. I don't even allow her to instigate anything because I'll go out and I'll come back after a certain amount of time. But during this time, she starts to make improvements while having COVID and no immune system. Medications are finally, being administered and whatnot. But I remember there was one time in the hospital where the BMT, the bone marrow transplant team, I called them the Quad. That was the nickname because there was like four of them most of the time, and maybe 5 total. But they would come, or they did come during rounds. And one of the physicians finally says, because they try to paint everything as if it's super optimistic, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Like there's light at the end of the tunnel now. So we went from this situation of incredible darkness, and I'm gonna call it what it is, witchcraft. You got spells on the window. You got these prayer flags hanging up. You got all of this darkness in the room. Even the blinds were closed. After this is palliative care and psychology has been involved saying, hey, this child needs some sunlight. It's good for her to see the sunlight. It's good for this. Completely ignored by the mom and the uncle. And I'm fighting, trying to do this and that and that. And once I placed it in God's hands, it's like, you know what? If you kill her, I didn't say that, but that was what I was saying. If you kill her, I have to trust and believe that she'll be all right and I'll see her again on the other side. Like I don't have any control over keeping breath in her lungs like I would like to think I do, not even in my own lungs. So whatever you're gonna do, I trust you, but I'm gonna need you to hurry up and do it. And during that time, that's when I got to see the miracle. Even the doctors, the nurse practitioners, the nurses, they got to see a big turnaround. And I created a lot of that. So first of all, I created all of that to God and a lot of that to the nurses, especially 2 of them that really stuck it out because none of the nurses had to go there. It was voluntary. And there were some that did. Love them like family for that. Really appreciate how they stuck it out, even while my daughter was having behavioral issues. But I understand my baby girl. It's like, hey, this is the only thing that she can control, and this was taken away. And now she's dealing with this awful situation. Their mom just turning into a different person or the darkest version of herself that she could be. And now this child is dealing with all of this pain. I'm the one that figured out that my daughter was was toughing out her pain. You know how I understand that? Because I understand me. If you don't understand yourself, you're going to have a really hard time understanding your children. Understanding the other 50% of her as well. Her mom, I understand my daughter. My daughter something was off. I'm like, I think you're in pain. And I'd ask her, she'd say no. And they came to a point where it's like, nurse, bring the morphine. Oh, now that heart rate is coming back down because she was in pain. And eventually Aviana she opened up, was like, yeah, I was in pain. But whenever calling a nurse means we'll mess with your dressing, that hurts, we'll do this and that hurts. And that child's little mind, you know what, I'm okay. Nope, I'm gonna tough out this pain. And she just start crying out of nowhere. It's like, you're in pain, kiddo. So during this time, she's turning around, 3 weeks on lockdown with dad, just prayer, worship, a healthy environment, sunlight. And we get, hey, she's well enough to be discharged probably next week. Come on now. Like, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And we also have to remember God's hand and his timing, perfect timing. I think I'm going to pause the story here. This is May. She was discharged May 2nd, May 3rd of 2023. This is about a week before that in April. I'm going to pause the story there. We're going to come back with what happened. I'm sharing this for people to understand that God gives us joy in the morning. Not just joy in the morning each day, but joy in the morning. Look at Paul, look at Silas, look at Jesus. Even though we're going through the storm, he's there with us. And if we are intentional about it, we can find peace in the storm. We can find moments of joy and gratefulness. Find your joy in the morning. I'll see you on the next one.